What is up, people? Welcome back to the channel. So just about to head to the gym, so obviously it's going to be another training vlog. So today on the menu we have bench and pull. So I'm going to be bringing through my entire pull day session pretty much to show you how to set up a very effective back day. Myself and Emma, we're going to down our pre-workout, we're going to get to the gym, and we'll see you there. Not bad. That is my competition bench all out of the way. I just have 2 sets of tempo bench left. You may ask, like, why am I doing bench on a pull day, considering bench press is not a pulling movement? Well, it's because I want to get better at bench. Bench is the exercise that suffers the most when it comes to my powerlifting total, and I needed another day across the week where I was going to be able to get in more frequency and more volume of bench press, which was going to have some kind of flow to the session. So I have 2 leg days per week, and it wouldn't flow there. It would take me away from the actual kind of leg training itself. So having it before I perform my pulling movements was the only other day that made the most sense, because the other days actually do have bench press on. So my push day, I've got bench press on. One of my deadlift and delts day, I have my bench press on, which you've seen in the last video. This is the only other day that made the most sense for me to have like rest to either side in regards to actually pressing. That triple that you saw there, that was the heaviest I've pressed in terms of a triple since Nationals last year. I think the most I benched in my Nationals prep last year for a triple was 145. I did 150 for a double. So to be able to do that there, it was challenging, but there's definitely more to give next week for sure. I'm pretty happy. So yeah, I'm going to finish off my bench and then I'm going to get into the pulling exercises, and that's where I'm going to provide hopefully some real value. Okay, tempo double. So Jesus. Okay, so that is bench out of the way, and now we're on to the first pulling movement. So the first pulling movement I have up on my program is going to be a T-bar row. Previously I was doing a barbell row, however I'm meant to be deadlifting tomorrow. So deadlifting today after doing heavy barbell rows, it was just a little bit too much for my lower back to recover from, and considering like the lack of stimulances are really getting from the barbell rows compared to what I could get from this, it was a pretty poor kind of exercise choice. Going to be getting into this. The main kind of thing that I'm trying to get out of this movement now is to try to get a lot of movement through my upper back. So I'm going to bring you through the first set and I'll give you some exercise pointers after that. So with this movement, what I'm thinking about leading from the back of my arms versus pulling my hands, because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to target my upper back. So I'm trying to target the likes of my traps, my rhomboids, and not necessarily have too much of a focus on my lats, okay? So you notice with my arm pat is kind of a little bit flared as opposed to trying to keep my elbow as close to my side. And this is going to mean then the lats have a less efficient line of pull. The fact that I'm going through a lot of protraction, so my shoulder blades moving forward and trying to bring them back, so into retraction, so the muscles around the upper back are going to be working that little bit harder. Okay, so that is all my upper back work done for the day. So I'm only doing T-bar row as my only upper back movements in this session. and then everything else is pretty much going to be lat focused. So this is going to be my main lat compound movement. So this is the prime seated row. I'm loading it mainly in the mid-range. So mid-range is generally where you're going to be the strongest. So I'm tackling that first. Then the next few exercises I'm going to go into the short range and into the length of the range, just to ensure that I'm getting the lats trained through their entire range of motion, as well as different portions throughout the range where they're going to be stronger and where they're going to be weaker. This movement, the kind of main kind of differentiation between how I'm performing this movement compared to the T-bar is basically my arm path. With the likes of the T-bar row, you'll notice that I had my arm kind of flared out to the side. This essentially just makes the lats a little bit less efficient in terms of how they're going to pull the humerus. So with this, I'm going to have my arms a little bit close back to my sides, and that's going to allow the lats essentially to work through their function, one of their functions, which is going to be shoulder extension, so bring the arm back into the body. This is going to be one of two sets. This is going to be my heavy set, and then I'm going to drop the load for the second one. Now I'm on to my unilateral exercises. So using the knotless low row. So one thing I really like about this machine is the rotating handles. You've seen that was the same on the Prime, and one of the reasons why that is just so nice, it does just allow some sort of free movement at your wrist and your elbow joint, so you're not kind of locked into any kind of uncomfortable position, because you have to remember, like, machines are not built for you, they're built for everybody. So having some adjustability or some means to actually make the machine fit you just means that the machine is going to be a lot easier to progress in over time, because you're not going to run into any kind of joint issues. This is one thing you see when people only do barbell lifts, where they're kind of crammed into an uncomfortable position. So you see this in the likes of like a barbell bicep curl, where people don't have the mobility to get into a full degree of supination, and they can only maybe get in this much due to like the carry angle and their mobility. So they end up getting like elbow issues over time because they're forcing themselves into a range that they don't have. This is one of the reasons why machines like this, where they do have that adjustability, just makes them such a good option. This actual exercise itself, so you'll see here, the actual pulling motion that I'm doing, it's elbow down into my side. I don't have the pulling movement coming up, it's just coming from this path of motion, so low, and then into my hip. So pulling in this way is going to allow me to get the lat as short as I potentially can with this exercise, and then the next exercise I'll be challenging the lat more through a kind of lengthened position, so where I'm going into more shoulder flexion, whereas in this exercise I'm really focusing on getting a little bit of lateral flexion, so bending my shoulder in towards my hip, which is one of the functions of the lat, driving that elbow down and really getting the most out of that range of motion. One important teaching point to actually talk about with this exercise is with the side that you're pulling with, get your foot up onto the platform. So you may not necessarily have a machine like this, but you may be performing this on a cable stack in your gym. So keep one foot up. That's going to provide some kind of counter force for you to push into as the reps get difficult. Then one leg on the ground, and just kind of keep your balance and ensure that you're not kind of twisting one way or the other. It's going to offer so much more stability to the exercise. I'm onto my high pulling movement now. So one thing that I really like about this machine is obviously it's knotless as well, so it still has those kind of freely rotating handles. But when it comes to kind of training lats, one thing we want to think about is how like the lats are actually going to like wrap around the rib cage. So the fact that this pulling motion is not straight up overhead, it's going to allow me to have my elbow coming forward, and therefore my lats are going to wrap more around my rib cage. And as well, considering the lats, they're kind of leverage kind of ends at around kind of 120 degrees of shoulder flexion. Now that's not necessarily 100% true. Like, as you do have your arms up overhead, they are still going to have some kind of leverage in that position. However, they're going to be kind of maximized at that kind of 120 degree of shoulder flexion. So that's kind of like the two kind of main reasons why I'm using this machine, because I'm gonna be able to have my lats coming around my rib cage, and it kind of have me in the best position possible to kind of challenge that kind of more lengthened position in shoulder flexion. And you'll probably notice throughout the actual reps of this exercise, I don't come down all the way, whereas I am kind of trying to bias the stretch position essentially, whereas in the previous exercise I was more so biasing that kind of bottom position. So this is my final back movement of the day. So I'm doing a rest pause on the Nautilus pullover. So one really kind of good thing about this movement here is like my arms and elbows, they're pretty taxed from doing all of the pulling. Like while I was initiating the pulling movements from my elbows, for example, you know, you're still having to engage your wrists, your forearms, your biceps. So this is just a really nice way for me to finish off my back without really having to tax those areas, because the pads here, they're gonna be pressing down on the back of my arms. So I can really just focus on that shoulder extension movement. Now, one really cool thing about this machine is it has the seat belt. So obviously when you're doing something like this, the weight, if I don't have this seat belt on and I pull down, it's gonna wanna pull me up, okay? And then obviously for trying to put output through my lats is not really gonna be too effective. So that seat belt there is gonna help me keep my hips stable. So all I really can focus on doing is driving those elbows down into the sides. So the rest pause set here, what is programmed is do 1 set to failure and then do 2 clusters after with 30 seconds rest. Gonna get into that now. It's the final lat move of the workout, and then I'm on to delts. Okay, that's the activation set done. 30 seconds to rest now. One more. Fuck me, one of the hardest parts about that machine is when you're getting pulled up, you have to stabilize your abs. Ooh. They're obviously not strong enough. So this is my final movement of the day. So finishing off with delts, just to spread more of that delts volume across the week. So I'm using the Atlantis lateral raise. And there's loads of other lateral raise machines in this gym. However, a lot of them are very light, whereas this one is quite nice. So it's gonna have me with my kind of arm coming slightly forward, which is gonna put my upper arm into what they call like the scapular plane, and that's gonna allow me to get into a little bit more kind of abduction as well as some type of flexion, which is gonna help me to train the lateral delt a little bit more effectively versus just having it completely out to the side. And another thing I'm thinking about with this exercise is keeping the hand pressure in the top half of my hand, because this, for me personally, is like a nice cue to actually get a little bit more activation into the lateral delt. The kind of final nice thing about this piece is the actual chest support here. So because the chest support is there, when the reps actually get difficult, I can think about kind of pushing myself into the machine and really just maximizing output through my kind of elbows, and then again just maximizing the output through my lateral delts. Anyway, I'm going to get into my final exercises because Emma is going to be waiting for me. And just like that, we're back. Hopefully you picked up some tips from that session in regards to exercise order, exercise execution that you can take into your own back training. Yeah, another off-season session done, and like I'm telling you, like while it may seem a long way till 2025, these weeks are going fast. Like to think that it's April next week, and you know there's a lot coming up over the course of the next few months for me in regards to kind of social occasions, which I'm really looking forward to, obviously because I didn't really get much socializing done when we were in prep. So next month we're going to New York, we're going to Detroit to a festival in May, and in July I'm going to be competing. August I'm going to be in Montreal for a wedding, then September I'll be back home for some birthdays as well as another wedding. So yeah, this year is pretty much going to go extremely fast. So really trying to make the most of all the sessions that I do have within the gym, and thankfully I'm in the best environment possible to actually do that. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that session. If you enjoyed the video, do make sure to like, make sure you are subscribed. It does help the channel grow, helps me reach more people, educate more people, potentially motivate more people. And yeah, I'm gonna get into my post-workout meal. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.